So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our regular Saturday morning call. This happens usually the first Saturday of the month, and we skipped last Saturday, and we're coming to this Saturday instead just because of a clash with an event, a fabulous event. My name is Sinead Pollock, and I am the General Manager of Mannatech Australasia, a role I am very proud to have and a job I love doing each and every single day. Now, this morning's call, we have our most requested speaker, Mannatech's Chief Science and Health Officer and Chairman of the Global Scientific Advisory Board is Dr. Steve Nugent, who has more than 40 years of experience in the area of integrative medicine. He has tested more than 6,000 dietary supplements and formulated more than 100. He is internationally recognized as an expert in his field and has been teaching doctors for more than 30 years. He has earned multiple degrees, graduating with top honours at both undergraduate and graduate levels. His areas of studies include integrative medicine, health and wellness psychology, leadership psychology, organizational psychology, neuropsychology, biological anthropology, nutrition science, and business administration. Dr. Nugent has served as president of the International Association of Complementary Medicine and is the president emeritus of the American Naturopathic Medical Association. He's also a professional member of the American College of Nutrition. Now, way back when this first started in 2007, when I say started this award, the Servant's Heart Award was awarded by Mannatech Associates to Dr. Nugent, really telling you that not only the knowledge and experience of this fine doctor, but also the big heart he has for all of you. Dr. Nugent was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, served his country with honor as a U.S. State Marine, and has been a resident of Texas for over 2 decades and is now a resident of Florida. So without further ado, come on down, the one, the only Dr. Nugent. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Sinead. Good morning to everyone in Australasia. My apologies for being on a bit late, but we are going to give a lot of great information this morning. So it's worth waiting for.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we'll let you take it away with the slides, Dr. Nugent, and I'll go hide myself.
All right. I'm going to do the share screen thing. And Sinead, can you?
Yes, I can.
All right, good deal. There we are. Well, we know that's me already, so we don't have to worry about all of that. We are going to be talking this morning about Catalyst, the multivitamin mineral formula, and more. There's more in it than vitamins and minerals. And Emprizone. We'll talk a little bit about Emprizone towards the end, but our main focus is going to be Catalyst today. Both are terrific products, and you're going to get some great information, not only to help you understand the products better, but to help you tell other people about the products more effectively. So Catalyst, that's a big, sturdy container for a big, sturdy vitamin. Now, what we know today is that things are different than they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. There's a lot of information that's still being used and taught at medical schools and still being disseminated to the news media. And of course, the media is where most people get their information. And when I say the media, I include internet media sources as well. So it's not all media sources. And some of that information just is, well, out of date. And so we're going to get to the up-to-date stuff. I'm going to give you a little tease about some of the benefits that you can expect from Catalyst. Catalyst, by the way, is a product that I formulated for Mannatech. It is one of the 163 products that I've formulated in my career. But this is different. It's not just a multi. And when I was initially asked to make this product for Mannatech, we had a multi at the time. And the request was, can you make us a multi that will replace our existing multi and do some other things as well? Well, among the other things was, let's have a stress vitamin. And let's have a vitamin that can help you with your metabolism if you've decided to get yourself fit and slim and go on to a fat loss program, etc. Because there are different kinds of nutrients that go into greater demand for your body under different conditions. So in general, here's some general benefits which are all in and of themselves enough to make you want to buy this product. And this is one of our feel-good products. Now, not every dietary supplement that you take, you feel a difference with it, but this is a feel-good product because of the extraordinary levels of certain nutrients and some of the cofactors that I put into this product that are not vitamins or minerals. They're different cofactors altogether that enhance the function of this product. So energy production and vitality, that's what most people feel when they start with Catalyst, and that's what most people miss if they stop taking their Catalyst. So there's a clue. And of course, that leads to support for general health and well-being. And in order to have good health and well-being, you've got to have a good immune system and nervous system. We want you to have strong bones and healthy tissue. And of course, not just good digestive health, but a balanced metabolism. And these are all important factors. These are all benefits with Catalyst. But we have a lot to talk about this morning. So let's start with the realities of the 21st century. Now, I know many of you on this call, and I know that many of you on this call, not all of you, but many of you, had lived through the better part of half of the 20th century. Some of you longer, actually. And so you remember things differently 40, 50, 60 years ago than they are today. Things are different. I'm only going to give you a couple of examples because I do a whole separate lecture on why you need nutrition and why you need Mannatech, and that's not that lecture today. So I'll give you just a little bit of this, but I think you'll find some of this information pretty interesting. Most people do not know that of the 190 plus countries on our planet, and the reason I'm not being specific is because too frequently when I'm specific, then somebody has a rebellion or a revolution or whatever, and suddenly there's a new country. So more than 190 countries, we'll just leave it at that. And of that, 67 countries have laws that mandate that dietary supplements be put into food, that require it by law. Now, why would any government require that if the food gives you everything you need? Why would any government require that more nutrients be put into the food that you're eating than what already exists there? Well, the answer is obvious. There isn't enough nutrition in those particular food items in terms of those particular nutrients. Now, this varies a lot from country to country. There are some countries that only have one or two nutrients that are mandatory. I'll talk about that in a moment. And some that have a list of nutrients that are mandatory. So it varies. But the point is, we live at a time when the very convenient and happy phrase, I eat right, therefore I don't need a supplement, it's just not really true anymore. It just really isn't. So this is a time when all of you and everyone you know and everyone you've not even met yet, they should all be taking a dietary supplement. In fact, there was a study done by some medical doctors in the United States, and it surprised them when they found out that virtually no one they tested had sufficient levels of vitamins, and they only tested for vitamins. They didn't even test for minerals, just vitamins. And they said that it appears prudent for all adults to take vitamin supplements daily. Well, that's good advice. It's very good advice in the 21st century. So let's talk about one of the mandatory laws that's close to you. And these were laws that were put into place in Australia. Now, in Australia, and here you see the timeline. The first one was in 1991, and then another was approved. This, like, I have to chuckle here. Governments are so inefficient and so frustrating. So they approve the law in 2007, but they don't implement it until 2009, 2 years later. That's government at work, not just your government, all governments. It almost feels like there are people in government whose job it is to slow everything down. Don't know. Anyway, perhaps I'm talking out of turn because I'm not a politician, thank goodness. Okay, so two laws here. One was about vitamin B1, which is technically known as thiamine, and one is about vitamin B9, which can be known as either folate or folic acid. Now, the reason for doing this is because Australia, and I mean no offense to anyone when I say this, you folks know that, but a simple fact, Australia has been in the top 5 countries for alcohol consumption for, well, a very long time, decades and decades and decades. And this says a lot with the overall British heritage, because one of the other countries that's always in the top 5 is the United Kingdom. So, so alcohol use is pretty common around the world for adults. In fact, you'd be surprised. Those of you who don't drink, or those of you who don't drink much, either way, you'd be surprised. I've lectured in 48 countries, all kinds of cultures. You'd be surprised how much alcohol is consumed around planet Earth. But let's just deal with Australia right now. So what they found was that there is a serious health problem called Wernicke's-Korsakoff syndrome. Now, it's caused by having too little vitamin B1 every day. And the Australian government recognized the problem, and they said, well, we are going to make it a law that vitamin B1 has to be put into all bread products, all bread flour, all wheat flour, all bread making products. And the only one that was exempt for that were the ones that were labeled organic. Now, the organic ones didn't necessarily have more B1 on their own, but they can't be organic if you've toyed with them in some way, okay? And of course, when you add folic acid, is the synthetic form of vitamin B9, folate being the natural form of vitamin B9. And so organic flour was exempt, but all the other bread flours had to have vitamin B1 added to it. Now, the folic acid was something entirely different. There was research going on where they found that something called neural tube defects that were happening in newborns, more frequently in males, but they were happening in newborns. And what they found was that the reason that these NTDs were occurring is because the pregnant mothers, were not getting enough vitamin B9, so folate or folic acid. And so they made it a law in 2007 that vitamin B9 or folic acid had to be added to the Australian diet. And again, that was implemented in 2009. Now, what do we know about that? And what do we know about nutrients in general because of that? Well, the evidence. The evidence were posted in reports that told us what happened. When people began to use the new bread products that were now, quote, fortified with vitamin B1, there was a significant decline in Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome across Australia. Well, it makes sense because B1 is what they needed more of. B1 is what they were not getting every day. And then with the NTDs, that fell by 14% overall. And among the indigenous population, it fell by a whopping 74% simply by adding the B9, the synthetic B9. Do synthetics work? Yes, obviously they do. And it's a whole different presentation about synthetic and organic, and that's not today. But for those of you who think, well, synthetics don't work, well, the evidence is clear that they do. Again, there's a different discussion about pros and cons and all that, and that's not this morning's discussion. Now, think about the indigenous diet. Think about how awful that diet was versus the diet of the standard Australian, to have such a huge difference in NTDs just by adding the B9. So this is just an example for you, a couple of examples for you. These are the references, by the way. If you wish to look these up and read the document yourself, you're certainly welcome to. I always provide these for folks. So that's what they are. And now I think it's important for us to talk about two important distinctions. It used to be, in fact, the majority of my career, when I was the president of the International Association of Complementary Medicine, when I was the president of the American Naturopathic Association, and they voted to make me president emeritus, which means honorary president for life. But I was only elected once. So anyway, for those of you who don't know what emeritus means, that's what emeritus means. So sometimes you'll see, as an example, Professor so-and-so, he's a professor emeritus. He's been given that honor for life. Okay. Anyway, back to the topic here. So back in the old days, when I was in practice myself, and we didn't talk really at all about deficiencies and insufficiencies. We talked about deficiencies or not deficiency. Well, things have gotten more subtle over time. We understand a lot more about nutrition and human health, and a lot of the subtleties that we didn't understand 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So let's talk about these two distinctions, because in today's world, if you're going to do some serious research, you're going to find references to deficient or insufficient. Now, you might say that sounds like the same thing to me. It's not the same. And that's why I have these definitions up here for you right now. So if you are clinically below the absolute minimum to maintain your health, and that means you're probably going to start to have symptoms of impaired function of one type or another, depending on what it is you're deficient in. And what this means, a deficiency then means your body can't perform its normal biological functions as designed. Now, when you have an insufficiency, it means that you're below the level that is considered normal and optimal. And so you may not have any kinds of obvious symptoms, but it still may be affecting your health a little bit at a time every day, because it's so gradual with the insufficiency. So let's go back to vitamin B1 for a minute. Let's say that your brain required 1 milligram of vitamin B1, but what you're getting is about 0.75. All right. Now, you're still getting B1, and you only need small amounts of B1, by the way, anyway. But you're still getting it, but you're not getting enough for your brain to function correctly. So you may have some brain fog and, some memory issues and that sort of thing, because you're getting it, and you're not technically deficient, where it would lead to something like Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome or other issues. But you're having suboptimal function. Now, you should want to feel as good as you could feel. Everybody should want to feel full of life, full of energy, wonderful mental focus, strength and stamina. You should want to feel all of that, because you want your life to be the best quality life you can have. Well, if you're deficient, that's not going to happen. That's definite. If you have insufficiencies, it is unlikely for you to be there. Okay, so on a couple of these slides you're about to see, you'll see deficient and insufficiency, and I wanted you to understand the difference between the two. Now, here's another example of deficiencies. Now, our training this morning is not designed to go through every nutrient and every product. There just isn't time for that. So what we're going to do is just give you a couple of quick examples to make the point. In Australia, approximately 20% of Australians have insufficiencies. Okay, I'm sorry, are deficient in vitamin D, approximately 20%. Now, there's a much greater level than that have insufficiencies. It's something I've talked about before, and I'm not sure if I've done this talk for Australia or Australasia, I should say. But many people think that they have vitamin D deficiencies when in fact they actually have either inadequate magnesium or they have magnesium deficiencies. We know in Australia that somewhere between 33 and 37% of adults have insufficient magnesium daily. Now, most people think about magnesium and calcium together, and indeed they are. But what you probably don't know is that magnesium is responsible for hundreds of enzyme functions. And there's a particular enzyme, well, there's more than one enzyme. There's a couple of enzymes that are required for vitamin D to actually be used by the body, to be converted and used. Now, that's different than swallowing it and absorbing it. Those are two different ideas. You can absorb something, but if you don't have the enzyme activity to activate that something, then it doesn't matter. All you have is expensive stool. That's the reality. Now, these are not things that were widely understood 40 years ago or 20 years ago, or probably by most practitioners even today don't even understand that. But what we see is if there's insufficient magnesium, it may appear that you have insufficient vitamin D when in fact you don't. You're just not utilizing the vitamin D. The vitamin D is not being activated. Okay. Now, in New Zealand, vitamin D insufficiency is around 27%, indicating that they're getting more vitamin D probably from sunshine, but maybe from food. There's a fair amount of vitamin D in most seafood, and there probably is a little higher seafood consumption in New Zealand. Probably, well, no, probably shouldn't bring it up. It's probably a marginal difference, but a difference. In Singapore, it's between 32 and 40% of adults are vitamin D deficient or insufficient. Now, I don't have numbers on magnesium for Singapore, so I'm not quite sure how that works out. The point is, there are cofactors for every nutrient. You know, a lot of times I'll talk to a person and it's normal human psychology to be very narrowly focused and to think in absolutes. So one thing, one answer, one action. That's what the human brain is programmed to do. And for you to expand beyond that requires a fair amount of objective thinking, which does not come natural to human beings. And I say that to you as a psychologist. All right, so all the nutrients have cofactors. And if you're missing a cofactor, as an example I was just giving with magnesium to activate the enzyme that activates the vitamin D, then you won't have the function. So you could be taking vitamin D supplementation as an example. You're taking extra vitamin D supplements, and your doctor is measuring your vitamin D levels, and things aren't working out the way he or she expected. Nobody checked your magnesium because it was the magnesium that was necessary to activate the D. Okay. So when you think about, I talk with people who say, well, my doctor says I need more magnesium, so I'm going to take a calcium magnesium product. Actually, that's a mistake because the calcium will use up that magnesium and you've not taken extra magnesium at all. I want you to take a very broad spectrum multi such as Catalyst. That's why it was designed the way it is. That's why it has a little more magnesium in it than I would put in a regular multi, because magnesium is responsible for hundreds of enzyme functions. It does so many things you can't even begin to imagine. In fact, I could write a whole book on it, honestly. So, absorption. So, to be clear, you don't need magnesium to absorb vitamin D. It's a fat soluble, it'll go through the small intestines. But you do need magnesium to activate vitamin D, both in the liver. And by the way, the liver can store mass amounts of vitamin D, but both in the liver and for kidney function as well. So you need to make sure you have enough magnesium, not just enough vitamin D. And then you think to yourself, well, as the average person, and you don't have access to blood tests, every day or every week, so you can go test every kind of nutrient you want to test all the time to try and balance yourself out. Just take a powerful multi. Take an effective multi. Take Catalyst. That's what you should be doing. All right. So I think I've probably covered enough on this on magnesium and vitamin D. But just to give in the center of the slide, as you see there, with low magnesium, that is not deficient, but rather insufficient, remember those two definitions, then you will see slower rises in blood level of vitamin D, even if you're supplementing. And sometimes your doctor might be puzzled by that. Like, why is the vitamin D not going up? Maybe I should raise the vitamin D some more, he or she might say. All right, so higher vitamin D dosages require the same enzyme. So you're taking more vitamin D. Now you have the potential to become toxic from vitamin D, and you're not using it because you don't have enough magnesium. Okay, so that's the idea. We'll move on. I think that's enough with that. All right, so across Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore, there is a significant list of nutrient gaps, I'll call them. And these nutrient gaps are a lot more common than you know. And these gaps create very strong reasons to use a really good multi, as you have in Catalyst. So for all three of your countries. All right, so this is sort of a summary key for you. I've learned over time in learning psychology that it's important when you're throwing around figures to show the figures more than once to help people get it very clear in their memory for later use. Remember, I want you to be able to leave this talk this morning and talk to other people intelligently about why you need Catalyst. And I think that you've got a lot of important information to look at here. Now, one of the things that I've added on another slide is about anemia. I'll cover that in a second, because it's a common question that I get all the time. But I want you to look at the bottom of the slide: zinc, selenium, and iodine. Suboptimal levels of those three nutrients are common in all three countries in Australasia. And that is insufficiency, not deficiency, but insufficiency. And I think you already understand the insufficiency enough for us to move forward with that. Zinc does so many things, selenium, so many things. If you are deficient in those, or even have insufficient levels of those, you're going to have a lot of health issues that'll seem maybe a little bit vague at first, but it will crawl up on you over time. Okay. And zinc is not just important for the immune system. There's so many things it's important for. And by the way, when I'm talking about cofactors, here's another example of balance, proper balance with your nutrients, and why you shouldn't really toy around. It's just better to take your multi than it is to toy around with it. Zinc, copper, and iron antagonize each other. So too much zinc can drive your iron or copper down to levels that are unhealthy and in rare cases even dangerous. And the other two can do the same thing because they antagonize each other. So you have cofactors and you have antagonists in the nutritional world. You need to be aware of these and you need to keep your balances proper. Okay. And again, the medical doctors have the basics on this sort of thing, but their specialty is medicine, as the name implies. So they're specialists in when to prescribe a pharmaceutical drug and how to maintain that. They're specialists in knowing when to do a surgery or for the surgeons how to do a surgery and so on. They're not specialists in nutrition, although I have met a few who think they are. They're not. Okay. So that's important to always go with objective data, and Catalyst has got the job done for you already. You don't have to really think too much about this. But I want to draw your attention to anemia, and this is important. And people say to me, why have you not made, and saying to me as the primary formulator of our products, why have I not added iron? Well, the reason is the number of people with iron anemia is so small that, and the potential for taking too much iron to overload and suppress either zinc or copper and have other issues as well is, in my opinion, a danger. And that's why I do not recommend adding iron. Now, if you're one of the, for instance, in New Zealand, if you are one of the 12.4% of women, that's a very small percentage, who is iron anemic, you need to be seeing a medical physician anyway. And that physician will almost certainly put you on an iron supplement, but the physician needs to find out why you're anemic and to deal with any potential problems that are around it. I don't want to mask those problems. So when I'm asked that, that's the answer to it, and that's why I put that on this particular slide. And of course, you see in Singapore, we have also a very small number. Now, interestingly, in the United States, the number is about 25%. Most Americans eat a great deal more meat every day, which is loaded with iron. And I think that the fact that the American food industry has been mandated by the American government to fortify almost everything with iron. And so there's iron in, gosh, all of your cereal grains, all of your bread flours, and so on and so forth. But the number is very, very low. And that's why I don't recommend iron supplements unless you have a bona fide iron problem and you've had the appropriate tests done to ensure that you do, in fact, not have any other kind of connected problems. So it's just simply an iron need, because there are other problems that can be going on with that. Okay, so what about stress? So we started talking about B vitamins. Stress. Whoa. I had a professor once, and some of you may have heard me say this before. And this professor, he said, the definition of stress: if you are breathing on planet Earth, you are under stress. Well, he meant that to get a chuckle from the students, but he was right. With the amount of toxin in our air, in our water, in our homes, in just our building materials, our furniture materials, our carpeting, just all of these things that we're so surrounded by synthetic chemical stress, industrial chemical stress. And then we couple that with all the psychological stress that's going on these days. I don't know if anyone's doing a psychological study on this at this time. If I had the money and the time, I'd do one myself, just because I want to know the answer. But I would be willing to bet that the effects of psychological stress have been increasing dramatically with social media and with internet use, too much screen time. And by the way, when you're using this thing, it's still screen time. You don't have to be sitting in front of a computer. This is a computer. And this is doing the same thing to your brain. It's created the same kind of stress. It's doing the same thing to your eyes. That's a different lecture. We're not going to do that one this morning. So, are B vitamins a problem? Well, not just for people who drink too much alcohol, for people who are breathing. I mean, literally. So, should you feel better if you take a dietary supplement that's got a pretty potent snap of B vitamins in it? Well, of course you should, and you will, and you deserve to. Now, B vitamins are water soluble, and if you should take in more than you need during a given period of time, it'll go out in your urine. And every once in a while, we'll have somebody who gets a lot of B2, vitamin B2 in their diet, which has a sort of yellowish, kind of almost a yellowish greenish almost tint to it. And that's the name. I'm not going to go through all that, but the name actually is all about color and so on and so forth. Riboflavin. Okay. Anyway, when they have too much vitamin B2, their urine might turn brighter yellow. Now, that doesn't mean, as it has been popularly stated, that doesn't mean that, oh, that means I didn't absorb any of my vitamins. No, it's not what it means at all. It means you had more B2 in your blood than you needed during the last 4 hours. So it went out your urine. That's all. That's all it means. Okay. Also, as you age, and the majority of people who take dietary supplements are over the age of 40, the overwhelming majority, the biggest group of people who are taking dietary supplements daily and religiously are over 55. So aging does play a role. And as we age, we are not getting our nutrients from the same food. Let's say that we're eating an identical food source that's farmed in the same place or harvested in the same place and that we were eating 10 years ago. Well, we will get less nutrition out of that very same food today than we did 10 years ago. Not because the food has changed, but because our bodies have changed. As we age, we begin to produce fewer of the enzymes necessary to do those activities that make those nutrients usable to us, bioavailable and functional. Okay. So very, very important to understand that. So great thing about Catalyst, it of course has plenty of vitamin D and A and C and E. It's got the full B complex. And in fact, again, most people that take Catalyst, they say they just feel good when they take it. Well, that was part of my intention with the product. I wanted you to feel good when you take it. And then I have had those people where the feel good was kind of gradual, and maybe they missed an order and their order was, late for a week or something. And they would tell me, wow, I didn't realize how good Catalyst made me feel until I stopped taking it. Well, that's one way to do a test, isn't it? All right, so calcium, magnesium, zinc, and all these other things that you need, they're all there for you in Catalyst. In all, there's 29 vitamins, minerals, and there are other nutrients here as well. So, things like alpha lipoic acid, there's a long list. And when I created this product, I also put a lot of phytochemicals from various plants, various vegetables, and so on. Now, that's not listed as a claim. The amounts are very, very small, but I wanted to do that as an added benefit to the product, even though it's not a benefit that we can talk about or make a claim for. Also, what you need to support your energy, your immunity, all of that. Now, there's something in here called Sensoril. That's a registered trademark, Sensoril. And this is an herbal which is patented. It's a special ashwagandha that is grown and supplied to only one company, and then the registered trademark is Sensoril. We buy the Sensoril and we incorporate it into Catalyst. Ashwagandha is pretty cool. It's been used in Indian medicine, so medicine throughout the Indian subcontinent, not just India, but also in Sri Lanka and Pakistan and so on. So throughout the Indian subcontinent. And this is an extraordinary nutrient because it's an adaptogen. It helps you to adapt to stress. It helps your immune system to adapt to a challenge. It helps to calm you. It helps to focus you. It's really cool stuff. I may speak about that again before we complete this talk this morning. It's 100% vegan, gluten-free, of course, dairy-free, and preservative-free. It provides you with antioxidants, although I still would like you to take your Emprizone AO for your full antioxidant support, because in today's environment, wow, I mean, we are really under stress from toxic chemicals all over the planet from sources you couldn't even imagine. So to help you reduce free radical activity in the body, and of course, to promote healthy aging, because oxidative stress accelerates aging as well. And I don't want to age any faster than I have to. In fact, I joke with people, but it's only a little bit of a joke. I'm shooting for 147 years of age. I have a particular reason for that. Will I make it? Well, realistically, probably not. But I'm going to keep putting it in my head that that's my goal. That's my goal. That's my goal. That's where I want to go. So I'm not going to throw in the towel early on that one. So this adaptogen, Sensoril, the ashwagandha, it has 11 scientific studies on it, specifically on this ashwagandha versus other ashwagandhas. And this is sometimes referred to as Indian ginseng, because ginseng, of course, is an adaptogen that East Asians are very aware of and very used to. Okay, and this has very similar functions to that. Now, chelation. I do get questions on chelation all the time. Why did you use chelates? Why did you not use this plant material or that plant material? The problem is ultimate function and volume. That's the problem. How does a plant take bits of mineral, which essentially are basically rocks, okay, teeny tiny rocks, but still, how does a plant take that and actually turn that inorganic material into something nutritious that it can use in its blood, which we call chlorophyll? It does so through chelation. In fact, the chelation that plants do inspired the idea of chelation in the industry for minerals, because the amount of plant material that you would have to eat to get, well, let's say magnesium, because we're talking a lot about magnesium today, you would have to take probably somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 20 or so catalyst-sized tablets per day if it was only pure plant material and nothing else. Well, that's absurd. You can't do it. Nobody's going to do it. Nobody could afford it. That would be ridiculous. And you'd spend your day popping down mineral tablets and mineral capsules, and it's just not reasonable. So what we use is called chelation. Now, what is chelation? How do you do it? You take that basic mineral and you bond it to an amino acid. The amino acid will be seen by your digestive tract as a protein that needs to be digested, and that's how it works. So what do we know about mineral chelation? What we know is that it does work. We have seen significant levels of mineral that will rise as a result in the bloodstream. But what's important is the chelates that you use. Chelates typically are not only are they amino acids, but they're very specific amino acids. You have to choose amino acids that work well with the digestive tract, because not all amino acids do. And that's why you see such a wide variety of mineral chelates out there with different chelating agents. Now, we have a few countries. In fact, there's one country in Japan where, for reasons I can't figure out, and it's not considered polite to question it, but they don't want to use the most effective chelating agent known to science. And I don't understand that. But it's their they're the regulators, it's their decisions. And so we do what we must in each country based on the regulatory environment for each. The idea here is you will effectively absorb your minerals and you will get that mineral activity that you need. That's what the key is. So, as I mentioned, various vitamins for all manner. So, vitamin D, if you support healthy bones, obviously you're supporting healthy teeth as well. It's very important for the immune system. Most people don't know that. It has other functions as well. Eye health, boy, I'll tell you what, I do a whole presentation on eye health, and there are problems with human eyes today that the human race has never, ever encountered. And between diet and stress and screen time, way too much, we're seeing all kinds of changes in human eyes and human eye health. So vitamin A is very, very important. Vitamin C, of course, is always important for your immune system. And for inflammation, vitamin C fights inflammation so well. And I'm glad I can use the word inflammation in Australasia. Can't say it in the United States. And of course, vitamin E is an antioxidant and for brain health and heart health. And the B vitamins, wow. In today's world, you just need your Bs. Not just the two that the Australian government made mandatory by law, but you need your Bs. And they have a lot of other functions there. So as I mentioned before, magnesium is involved in more than 300 enzyme reactions in the body, not just vitamin D. So many reactions in the body. Zinc, a lot of people don't know it, but if you want healthy DNA, you have to have zinc. It's not just immune support. It's a number of other things. And for men, it's prostate support, and the list goes on. Selenium, also for prostate support, but also for your immune system and heart health. It's, your heart is functioning by an electrical function. And selenium is very important in that particular function. Copper, well, a lot of people say, well, copper, that doesn't sound like you need that. Yep, you do. You do. It's for cardiovascular health. And it has some other factors as well. Chromium for blood sugar. I think almost everybody knows that. And are there blood sugar problems on planet Earth today? Yes, there are. And according to World Health, they are getting worse, not better, across the global population, not just in one or two specific countries, but across the world populations. And as I mentioned again, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, no artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives. And I want you folks to note that I hope that I used correct Australian English in my spellings on everything, because it's certainly foreign to me, but I think I got them all there for colors, flavors, etc. And of course, manufactured to Australian GMP standards for compliance. How do you take it? Take it exactly the way it says on the bottle. And there's a new mandate that we have where some people will say, well, but could I take more of this or should I take more of that? I am now restricted in saying that you must follow the label instructions. Okay, and that's what I have to say. However, in this particular case, following the label instructions is a really, really good idea. There are a few products where I might want to go more than that, but I can't talk about that anymore. New regulations, new restrictions, always a new restriction from some regulator somewhere. So if you want a comprehensive health program, Catalyst. this is the product you should be using. And I threw on that last line because I'm serious about it. I want everyone, if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, you should be under a physician's care. You should have your blood regularly monitored. And if your physician recommends something different, then follow that advice, please. Okay, so you've got the adaptogen, you've got the vitamins, you've got the balance, you have this broad spectrum of other cofactors. This is the product you should be taking every day. I take it every day, obviously, and you should too. And these are some more references if you want to read that. All right, let's talk briefly, very briefly, about Emprizone. I came in late on the call this morning, so we're going to go a little bit over to get the full 60 minutes in here. So Emprizone was originally designed by a pharmaceutical company years ago. When we bought the formula, we had to reduce its potency in order to make it an over-the-counter, so it wouldn't have to be used as a prescription drug. So those of you who know that story, not everyone knows the story, but those of you who know it, well, that's what happened. And in the higher potency level, it was talked about with burns and that sort of thing. And we don't do that anymore because the potency has been greatly reduced. It helps to soothe your redness and skin irritation. It does help to balance the pH of your skin. It can improve elasticity and the tone of your skin. And if you shave every day, then, and whether that's your face or your legs or whatever you're shaving, then you may want to put Emprizone on your face right after you shave, because it really is, I mean, you've just scraped your skin, haven't you? So that's something to think about. Sun exposure, after a little bit too much sun exposure, you may want to use Emprizone and get some nice relief for the redness and irritation and so on. And it can be used daily. There is very good science on how the allopolysaccharides are good for moisturizing and soothing and supporting the barriers of your skin, the healthy barriers of your skin. So a lot of good science on that. This formula contains, it's aloe based, obviously. So what we do with this is we go to aloe leaf, and the gel is scraped out of the leaf by hand. So we're not using machines, so we might get other materials in there. So it's done gently by hand. From that gel, the actives are used to make this cream, or I guess gel is the best way to talk about this. So it's not a clear color. It's got some of the aloe in it that you can see color-wise in here. You can't see it in terms of strands or anything like that. Vitamin A and E are added in here. There's some other botanical ingredients. We put ambrotose complex in this. So this is a great way to apply ambrotose complex to your skin. And it's fragrant free. It is hypoallergenic. It's free of parabens, etc. So all these good things that it can do for you makes Emprizone a really good product for you to keep and use for your skin. When I'm traveling, I always take a tube of Emprizone with me because, well, you never know when you might have some skin irritation and so on. And I don't want to have to stop what I'm doing, go to a pharmacy in another country where I have difficulty finding people who speak English and so on. I don't want to do all that. So I take Emprizone with me whenever I travel. It's always in my suitcase. So it's a good hydrator, all those things that we just talked about. You can use it hand and body, irritated areas. It is for external use. Do not put it in your eyes. You will not be happy with that. If you do it, don't do it. Okay. It's good for all skin types, and it's also good for sensitive or reactive skin. That's very, very good. And for aging and environmentally stressed skin, it's good to apply that as well. So, Catalyst every day in the morning, make your day great when you take your catalyst, Emprizone, after your cleansing or shaving. And of course, you can apply Emprizone at night as well for hydration and calming those skin cells as well. And that's it for this morning's presentation. So I'm going to stop the sharing and go back to Sinead.
Thank you so much. And I can see the chat has gone off, Dr. Nugent, as always. You've given us so much information and so much to think about, and we are very, very thankful for you indeed. I am just going to stop
Oh,
that.
this is nice.